dengan saya punya gang ni. All the student network. Okay, so we'll go live and then we'll go for about 10-15 minutes.
Okay, sure.
It won't be very long. Then later they will cut your answers.
They will edit it.
Yeah, so your answer, if you can answer around like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Once it gets 1 minute, it gets too long.
Yeah.
So if you have like 20-30 second answers, then you know.
Okay, I have to remember that.
Yeah.
Because it's all interrelated sometimes.
Interrelated. And then if you want to continue, you pause.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you continue. So there's a
it's
space that
easy
they can
to
cut.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so basically it's like eating
Is it
it
all right?
and talking like in chunks. You know, you're like chunk, chunk, chunk. You know,
Okay.
things like that, right?
Fire, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad that this actually said,
All right.
all good.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
all
good. We're
ready.
good.
Time, so friend remember interact with the camera and also the guest. Now you're a bit too side profile already. Not too side, yeah.
Okay.
So at least camera and
Okay.
You can start
Okay.
opening with looking at the camera first.
Okay.
You can start anytime now.
Okay.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, on your friend.
Hi, good morning. We're at the Smart Cities Conference here in Kuala Lumpur. And today we have Rashidi Yahaya from KENDANA Council and Setera, and Swapna from the Smart Cities Network, Dr. Swapna, right?
That's
from
right.
the Smart Cities Network in Singapore. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. It's a great first day. We've had the opening ceremony. We have the Prime Minister coming here tomorrow. It's really packed.
Yeah.
So I hope that you have a little bit of conversation. And then we can. I understand you have a panel later at 2 o'clock.
That's
Yes.
right, at 2 o'clock. Looking forward to it.
Yes,
Looking
exactly.
forward to it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rashidi.
Yes.
So I think I understand the panel is going to be about the elderly, senior citizens living in the cities as our cities evolve. The cities are becoming smarter. More technology is kind of enabling the city. Yeah. At the same time, a lot of cities are kind of aging, right?
Yeah.
Going from very young populations to kind of a mix between young people and elderly.
Yes.
Swapna, starting with you, right? How do you look at this? What is it that we need to keep in mind as our cities start becoming more technology savvy, start putting more technology in cities? How do we address the challenges of the elderly?
So technology is here to stay. It's going to evolve. We need to embrace it. But I really am very passionate about the fact that we cannot leave anybody behind. So we shouldn't create, I would say, a gulf between the elderly and the young. Because technology is, the young are technology. What you would say they are digital natives, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy for them to pick up on this technology and move with it and make it an integral part of their work and the way they live. But for the seniors, they may struggle with that.
Yeah.
And if we introduce technology very abruptly, then they will not feel as comfortable. So I think it's important in this, as we go forward, we have to constantly ask ourselves, how can we bring our seniors on this journey? How can they embrace it so that they will feel left out? And of course, the quality of life should not be sacrificed.
Definitely. So what you're saying is that the elderly will maybe adopt and adapt to technology at a slightly slower rate than, say, our young people. And that's one thing we have to keep in mind.
Yes.
Rashidi, you've been working a lot with the elderly community.
Yes.
How have you seen them, looking at technology? Is it something they fear? Is it something they welcome? What do you see are the key requirements as we
Yes.
start introducing smart cities?
All right. I think to start with, when we look about elderly aging in smart cities, first you must have the right policy in place. All right. So the right policy, and we're on the right track because under the 13th Malaysian Plan, we have already segmented things that the Malaysian government want to do for the next 5 years.
Yep.
That's number one. Number two, we also have our national aging blueprint.
Right.
Right, which is, we should be launching this maybe towards the end of the year,
Okay.
right? Which both documents have to be read together in moving forward. That's
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
And I think Malaysia
That's the kind of policy structure.
Yes.
Yes.
If you don't have policy, then we are all over the place. Right. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, when we look at communities, like elderly communities that we've been visiting all over the country, the most important part is they are, yes, slow in adopting, but they also need to have a very structured exposure. You know? So it has to be structured. For example, we were talking about scams earlier, right? About scams. Yes, today with AI, scams can be easily perpetrated now, right? With nano banana, AI image and so forth, right? So we have to have a structured education on using technology. I think that's the beginning.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the elderly community can adopt technology, but what they need is a more structured approach.
Yes.
You can't just throw it at them
Yes.
and expect them to catch the
Yes.
ball on technology.
Yes.
And you've got to think about it and kind of gradually, kind of slowly introduce it to them and make them comfortable with this technology.
Yeah. Can I add on to that? I think it's really important where you get, say, seniors to be ambassadors of technology to their peers.
Exactly.
So you would have certain seniors, right, who are naturally curious, and you know, elderly is a broad spectrum. You have the young old, the middle old, and the old. You could get the young old to be ambassadors, and you will feel more comfortable, right? Hearing from your peer, sharing with you how to use technology. So instead of having a youth or somebody that they're not familiar with, someone that they know, or even young people from their community who can come in and guide them, but structured. I think that really helps. So I'm a big advocate of silver ambassadors, meaning the elderly are ambassadors to their own peers.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely correct. They kind of learn from each other.
That's right.
They have these little groups that they get together and then they'll show each other technology.
Yes.
The other day I introduced, I was showing how you could use AI and ChatGPT within your WhatsApp.
Yes.
So you don't even have to go to another environment. You're kind of familiar with WhatsApp. And then you can start using it.
Yes.
So the elderly normally will start first by comparing what kind of medicines you are taking for the day. And then they will talk about their children.
Yes.
And none of them is visiting.
Yes.
And then they say, oh, by the way, you know what ChatGPT can do. That will be
That's right. That's
conversation.
right. You can set reminders, you know, to take your medication, and then you hear from each other. And another thing to add on to that is, you know, when you talk about children and grandchildren, the intergenerational bonding. How can you get your children, your grandchildren to outreach to their grandparents and you know, help them on? So great example was COVID, right? A lot of the elderly learn how to do video calls, WhatsApp call to keep up with their loved ones, you know. So we can also look at both ways beyond the very standard how would I say, public outreach education campaigns. It's going to have very little traction. It's more community-based education, structured, that will have the biggest impact.
Great. So you've kind of talked a little bit about technology adaptation and adoption among the elderly. There's a large segment of elderly population who are also perhaps on the lower income, right? You know, there's a growing, you know, kind of financial crisis or difficulty among, say, lower income elderly community. What can we do to make, you know, those people in the elderly community who are perhaps not so affluent? How can technology help them? Rashidi, you want to start?
Wow, okay. This is opening the Pandora's box, right? Now, we have to look at tiered care. So when you talk about elderly, I'm focusing into what we call the long-term care. Right? If the elderly are healthy, right, you don't need care. Then you don't have to spend so much money on caregivers, etc. But the moment you're not, that's where there lies the problem. Okay. Of course, we are still up in debate what kind of technology is applicable today. But mostly it will be to address loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah, mostly to address loneliness. You cannot expect maybe the AI robot today to replace the caregivers. Right?
Sure.
Definitely it's not going to happen. No, we're not going to be a Terminator era yet. We're not going to be a Terminator. But I believe in Japan we are heading towards there. Their fixation on robot will just lead us there. But what I'm trying to say is that for technology, we can start small but effective. So today, for example, right, if you use ChatGPT, it can communicate with you in different languages.
Yes.
Right? It can different in the dialects, in Kelantanese, in Malay, in whatever dialects you have. So you can build things around that to start with.
Yes,
right?
No, certainly.
To combat loneliness and so forth.
Yeah.
How has it been done in Singapore? How have we looked at, you know, the B40?
What do we do? What we do, you know, this is where the both public-private needs to come in. Yeah. So there are schemes in Singapore where we try to have, say, if you're from a low-income family, means tested, how can we make tablets available to you? Okay. You know, the computer schemes for students, for low-income families.
Access issues, give them access
yes,
to
access to the hardware.
Yep.
You know, and then making your connectivity, your data plans for them. So the government subsidizes it very heavily so that they can come on board. Now that's the hardware part of it. Then there needs to be, of course, how do you sustain this? How do you get them to come and use it? If I provide a hardware and I give you data, doesn't mean you're going to be connected. But that is a building block, right? So that's where the government can come in. Then later you can have private come in. You know, as part of your corporate, your corporate social responsibility, you could actually have volunteers to visit them. It combats loneliness, guiding them on how to use these things, sustaining it. So I always believe first off is easy, but later that the public, private people need to come in to sustain it.
Yeah.
And really you hit it. It's really the loneliness that is the biggest issue that we grapple with in a small city state like Singapore too, because they just retract and they just confined in their rooms, in their flats. They're not coming out. So how do you encourage them to come out into the community and use this technology is the next challenge that we're trying to tackle.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that one, we have to look at accessibility, making sure they have the tech, but that itself is not enough.
Yes.
So maybe a structured approach to adopt that technology, adopt those services, and thirdly, to make sure it's sustainable.
Yes.
Right? We can't, make it one-off and then, let it, program die. And I think sustainability is a big challenge, right?
Yes, it
We're
is.
often very short-term, and there's some funding and we do one project.
Yes.
And 6 months later, we find it's not sustaining.
Yeah.
So what I hear is that perhaps also some medium to long-term thinking about how do we construct these programs so that the elderly really benefit. Yeah.
Absolutely, spot on.
Okay.
And for that, you need the humans, you see.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's always, I always believe all these initiatives is technology enabled or AI enabled, but you cannot take the human out of
Can't
it.
take the human.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rashidi.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank
Swapna.
you, thank you. What a pleasure, Mr. Rashidi.
Thanks our
Thank you.
audience,
Yeah.
and I think
And
that
thank you,
please
audience.
join us at 2 o'clock today to hear more from Rashidi and
Yes.
Swapna
Yeah, please do.
about
Please do.
elderlies in the smart city.